My coworker bragged that he'd convinced everyone I was too emotional for management. "It's easy," he said. "Just act calm and let her dig her own grave." So I took my time, spoke less, and let him talk more, until the promotion panel played back a clip from a recorded meeting where he said, "I work at a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. We handle supply chain management for a bunch of retail companies, and I've been in operations for over 8 years now. I started off as a coordinator, worked my way up to team lead, and eventually became an operations supervisor. I've always been someone who just works. I come in early, I stay late, and I genuinely care about people. But that also means I speak up. I call out inefficiencies. I defend my team. I don't let people steamroll me. And apparently, that makes me too emotional." That's what Ryan decided anyway. Ryan was hired 3 years ago, straight out of some MBA program. He came in hot, always using buzzwords, trying to insert himself into meetings where he didn't belong, always trying to talk over people with a smug little laugh, like he was the smartest guy in the room. He and I were at the same level, both supervisors in different branches of operations. But he always treated me like I was beneath him. If I pushed back on a policy he introduced, he'd smirk like I was some irrational woman. One time during a team meeting, I told him that his shift coverage plan wouldn't work during peak season and explained why. He didn't even argue back. He just sat there, smiled, and said, "Okay, thanks for your passion, Julia. We'll take that under consideration." That word, passion. The way he said it, it was like a pat on the head, a shutdown disguised as a compliment. Anyway, I kept doing my job. But about 9 months ago, our department VP, Monica, announced that they were opening up a senior manager role. It would be over both our branches, one step above both of us. Naturally, Ryan and I both applied. Here's where it got ugly. After I submitted my application, I started noticing changes, subtle ones at first. I'd speak during team calls and get interrupted. My ideas were written off or reframed as someone else's later. HR started reaching out more frequently for check-ins. Monica began treating me with a weird, cold politeness. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something was off. Then came a kicker. One afternoon, I walked into the break room and froze. Ryan was in there talking with Kevin from IT and another guy from finance, Jason, I think. They hadn't seen me yet, and Ryan was bragging. "She doesn't even realize it," he laughed. "It's so easy. You just stay calm, keep your voice level, and let her dig her own grave." I say something totally normal, and she jumps in emotionally. I mean, look at her last email. 5 paragraphs of defensive rambling. Everyone saw it. Management eats that up. Kevin laughed. "You're savage, man." Ryan kept going. "Dude, I'm playing the long game. Just keep planting seeds. Make her look like she can't handle pressure." Meanwhile, I'm the calm, logical one. They're practically handing me that promotion. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just turned and walked out. I remember going back to my desk and sitting in silence for about 10 minutes. My heart was racing. I felt humiliated, sick, furious. But I didn't cry. Not then. I realized something important in that moment. He wasn't just competing. He was manipulating the perception of me to kill my career. He was telling people on purpose that I was unstable, that I was emotional, that I was a liability. He was playing chess. So I changed the game. From that day forward, I stopped reacting. I started watching. I pulled back from team chatter. I let Ryan take credit in meetings. I let him lead conversations. I let him talk. The more he talked, the more arrogant he got. I stayed quiet, took notes, and built a paper trail. I stopped pushing back directly, and instead, I started documenting. Every time he dismissed someone, every time he rephrased something I said and claimed it as his idea, every little comment that could come off as condescending or undermining, I logged it. I knew our meetings were recorded for transparency and training purposes. HR had said so during a policy rollout. Most people forgot that. I didn't. I made sure to speak clearly, calmly, and directly in every meeting. I phrased things with precision. I smiled. I asked questions, and I let Ryan talk. And talk he did. He interrupted, dismissed, mocked. He rolled his eyes when I spoke. He joked about women overreacting in stressful roles. Once, during a virtual call with 3 senior managers present, he literally said, And I'm not saying women can't be good managers, but some people just let emotions lead the meeting. I think we need to prioritize logic. Monica, our VP, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I made a note. I knew the promotion panel was coming up: Monica, 2 senior managers, and someone from HR. I submitted my final internal review packet with a calm, professional cover letter. I highlighted my successes, kept everything fact-based, and attached one final note. That note included timestamps for meetings. I listed 6 different clips across 3 months where Ryan made inappropriate or manipulative comments, not just about me, but about other staff too. I didn't editorialize. I simply said, I believe these moments speak for themselves. Please review if time allows. The panel interviews were held on a Friday. Mine went well, straightforward questions, nothing too surprising. I was told they'd make a decision by the end of the following week. But on Monday, something happened. Ryan got called into HR loudly. Everyone saw it. He came out an hour later, face pale, lips tight. He didn't speak to anyone. He just walked out. By Wednesday, Monica sent a company-wide email announcing that Ryan was no longer with the organization. No details, no goodbye party, just gone. But that wasn't the revenge. That was just the fallout. The real revenge came during the final panel feedback session, which they offered to me for transparency. Monica sat across from me in a small conference room, flanked by HR and one of the senior managers. They offered me coffee. I declined. Then Monica pulled out a printout and said, "We wanted to thank you for the professionalism you've shown these last few months. We also wanted you to hear what helped us make our decision." She clicked play on a laptop. It was a clip from a virtual department meeting. Ryan was speaking, bragging again. She doesn't even realize it. It's so easy, I recognized the break room conversation. He'd repeated it later in a recorded meeting, not knowing HR would ever care. He laughed. He said it almost word for word. When the clip ended, Monica looked me in the eye and said, "We don't tolerate manipulation or targeted undermining here. Thank you for bringing it to our attention in such a clear way. We've learned a lot." Then she offered me the promotion. I accepted, but that's not the end, not even close, because Ryan didn't go quietly, and I wasn't done watching him crash. I thought it was over after Ryan got fired. I got the promotion. I had his old team under my supervision now. There were a few awkward days, sure, but most people seemed relieved. Some even came up to me privately and said, "It's about time someone called him out." Apparently, Ryan had been stepping on people left and right, but no one wanted to speak up because of how tight he seemed with upper management. I wasn't looking to gloat. I just wanted to do my job. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel damn good walking into that manager's office for the first time. Then, 3 weeks later, things started happening. First, someone left a 1-star Glassdoor review about our department. It mentioned female managers using HR to silence male coworkers and talked about the toxic feminism taking over the company. It read like something straight off one of those angry men's forums. At first, I ignored it. People post junk all the time. But then came the email. It was sent to my work account from a burner Gmail. No name, no signature. Just, "Hope the promotion was worth your soul. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself." I forwarded it to HR. They logged it and asked if I had any enemies. "I might," I said, "but not here. Not anymore." They told me to keep an eye out. If it escalated, they'd involve legal. I started locking down my social media, made everything private, took my LinkedIn photo down. My phone started buzzing more often with spam calls. My inbox filled up with random mailing list signups I hadn't done. I'd unsub from one, 5 more would pop up. Then one night I got home and found a manila envelope taped to my front door. No postage, no return address. Inside was a printed copy of a photo I didn't even know existed, me from 5 years ago, sitting outside a coffee shop in downtown Columbus, wearing a different company badge, laughing with a coworker. Just the normal candid shot, except underneath it, written in thick black Sharpie. "Still think you're untouchable?" I didn't sleep that night. I gave it to the police the next morning. They filed a report, but said unless there was a direct threat or a pattern, they couldn't do much. HR asked if I wanted to take a leave of absence, but I said no. That's what he wanted. It had to be Ryan. But officially, I had no proof. Unofficially, his online footprints weren't hard to find. I made a burner account and started watching some of the usual toxic forums, the anti-HR, anti-corporate Reddit spaces. And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, a user popped up on a thread titled "Fired because of lying coworker. What would you do?" The post was long, rambling, but certain phrases stuck out. She weaponized HR. I was the only one keeping calm. It's all a game to them. I played better. She just played dirtier. This isn't over. Same writing style. Same smug victimhood. He even mentioned Columbus. I sent it to HR. They couldn't confirm it was him, but they archived it in the case file. Then came the job alerts. 3 different companies in Columbus contacted me through LinkedIn saying they had received a reference email about me. Anonymous, but full of slander. That I was a manipulator, prone to emotional outbursts, and a risk to company culture. Luckily, those companies had enough sense to contact me directly. One even said, "We almost believed until we realized you had 0 bad reviews anywhere else." I kept it professional. I thanked them. I moved on. But I knew what he was trying to do. If he couldn't have the job, he'd ruin mine. Piece by piece. Reputation, safety, sanity. So I started digging. I called in a favor from a friend in cybersecurity. Not company related, just personal. He used to work in digital forensics and owed me one from years back when I helped his wife get hired. I asked him if he could help me find out where the envelope came from, or maybe even trace the burner email. He agreed, under the radar. A week later, he called me and said, "Julia, I can't give you official documentation, but I'm 90% sure all of this traces back to one IP address. You're not going to like it." It was Ryan's brother, a guy named Lucas, worked remote IT for a private health company just outside Dayton. Still lived with his parents. Apparently, Ryan had been using his brother's IP to mask some of the activity, probably thinking it would cover his tracks. I asked my friend, "Can you prove Ryan was the one behind the messages?" "No," he said, "but I can tell you Lucas has 0 connection to you. He doesn't even have social media. And someone was definitely using his home connection to search your full name, address, even your old resumes." That was enough for me. So I played the long game again. I didn't file a restraining order. I didn't contact Ryan. I didn't even confront him. Instead, I did what Ryan always underestimated me for. I planned. First, I hired a lawyer and opened a defamation and harassment claim, quietly. Then I contacted the 3 companies who'd received fake references and asked for written confirmation of emails. 2 agreed. Next, I began working with corporate security and legal. They brought in digital investigators to take over. Since HR already had the burner account threats, the printed photo, and the online post screenshots, they had enough to launch an internal digital trace. And because Ryan used to work for us, they still had his old IP logs and access credentials. They found matches. Now legal had something real. They sent a cease and desist to Ryan's last known address. Then they sent one to Lucas, whose employer got involved and opened their own internal review. I didn't hear what happened to Lucas exactly, but his LinkedIn went dark 2 weeks later. But the best part? A few months after all this, I was invited to speak on a local business leadership panel. Nothing fancy, just a small event in Columbus about navigating career obstacles. I said yes. They filmed it, posted it online. I talked calmly, clearly, and with a smile. At one point, I said, sometimes the people who claim to be the calmest are the ones quietly throwing knives behind the scenes. And the best thing you can do? Let them keep talking. Eventually, they hand you the evidence themselves. The clip went semi-viral on LinkedIn. Guess who viewed my profile 5 times in 2 days? Yeah, Ryan. He still hasn't messaged me. But the game isn't over. 3 months after the panel clip went viral, things felt like they were finally settling down. I had the new role. My team was solid. HR had closed the internal case, and legal told me there wasn't enough to press criminal charges against Ryan. But the harassment and defamation claim stayed open as a civil matter. We were just waiting. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe he finally realized he'd lost. I was wrong. It started again, slower this time. More careful. First, one of my direct reports, Jenna, got an anonymous message through her personal Instagram. It said, "Your boss is dangerous. She's already taken one person down. You'll be next. Watch your back." It creeped her out so much she came straight to me, shaking. I told her to send it to HR. Then I sat with her while she cried in the break room, scared it was something she did. She thought someone was watching her. Then it was Mark, one of the newer employees. He told me someone called his emergency contact pretending to be from HR, saying there had been a complaint against him. That's when I knew it wasn't about me anymore. Ryan had changed tactics. He wasn't just trying to ruin me. Now he wanted to make me look like the toxic boss, the one running a department full of fear and paranoia. And to be honest, it almost worked. There was a shift in the team. People got quieter, tense. I had to pull everyone into a meeting just to say, look, I know there's been some weird stuff happening. If anyone feels unsafe or pressured, my door's open. HR is aware. We're handling it. You're safe here. They believed me mostly, but the doubt had already crept in. I kept doing my job. I worked late. I checked in with each team member. I brought in outside consultants to host anonymous feedback sessions. That move helped a lot. It proved I wasn't afraid of accountability, but I was angry and exhausted. So I made one last move. I took a day off, drove to Cincinnati, and met with a woman named Ruth, a former HR director from a company Ryan worked at before he came to ours. I'd found her on LinkedIn through mutual contacts. Her profile said she was consulting now, which in HR usually means retired but still talking. I asked her one question over coffee. What do you remember about Ryan? She didn't even blink. Manipulator. Smart, but dangerous. Got a director fired with half-truths and a fake email chain. We couldn't prove it, but the timing lined up too perfectly. He left just before it exploded. I asked, would you be willing to say that in a statement? She stirred her coffee, looked me dead in the eye, and said, if it helps stop him from hurting someone else? Absolutely. Boom. One more name for the civil case. One more witness. My lawyer added it to the file. We still weren't sure how far we could take it, but we were building something now, a trail, a pattern. And then, like fate, something wild happened. Someone leaked Ryan's resume. I didn't know who did it. Could have been someone he sent it to, or maybe even his bitter brother. But suddenly, someone emailed me a PDF with no message, just the file. It was Ryan's resume. Current, updated, and dumb. He had listed our company, with my promotion listed under his name. Senior Manager of Logistics, led department-level meetings, developed cross-team policy reform, managed staff of 24. He listed projects I led, metrics I hit, my whole damn job. And at the bottom, under references, available upon request, strong support from former supervisors. It was the perfect lie, clean, bold, and easy to miss unless someone knew the truth. I forwarded it to HR, and something snapped in Monica, RVP. I'd never seen her pissed before, but that day she stormed into legal, demanded they contact every major hiring manager in Columbus with a quiet warning. If you see this name, don't touch it. They didn't smear him publicly, but they sent messages, made phone calls. One by one, companies backed away. I know this because a recruiter friend of mine forwarded me an internal thread. It had Ryan's name on it with 2 words next to it in bold. High risk. But Ryan still wouldn't stop. A few weeks later, I got a call from my niece, Riley. She's 19, a freshman at Ohio State. She was crying. She told me someone approached her in the campus library and said he knew me, said I was his ex-boss, said I ruined his life. She said, Aunt Julia, I didn't know what to do. He was so intense. He said you lied, that he had proof. I just walked away. I felt like I was going to throw up. Riley didn't know what Ryan looked like, but I did, and I knew he'd crossed the line now. He was targeting my family. I went to the police again, this time with a full packet. The photo, the anonymous messages, the resume lie, Riley's statement, Jenna's message, the LinkedIn harassment, and Ruth's testimony. They finally moved. They opened a formal harassment investigation. And because the interaction with Riley happened on campus, Ohio State Police got involved too. I gave them everything. A week later, they called me. We've identified him. We have security footage. We're working with your company's legal team. Please consider applying for a civil protection order. We think it's time. It was the first time anyone had said those words out loud. It's time. But I didn't apply for the protection order yet because there was still one more card to play, something he wouldn't see coming. And it was going to happen in front of everyone. I didn't want to drag this into court if I could help it. I wanted Ryan exposed. not buried. He'd already done that to himself. He just didn't know it yet, but it had to happen publicly, not in quiet HR meetings or through private cease and desist letters. I wanted it out in the open, in front of people who mattered to him. So I waited. Then I heard through the grapevine that Ryan was trying to pivot careers. He wasn't applying to logistics jobs anymore. He was reaching out to local consulting firms and management workshops. Word was he had a friend who ran a small business development group in Worthington, just north of Columbus. They ran quarterly leadership seminars, low-level stuff, resume building, panel talks, how to succeed in the workplace kind of thing. I looked it up. Sure enough, their next panel was posted on Facebook. 4 speakers. One of them? Ryan M., former operations leader at a Fortune 500 company. I laughed when I saw it, loud and bitter. He had finally found someone who didn't know better, some clueless event coordinator who thought he was a polished professional with experience. They probably had no idea what he really was. That's when I made the call. I contacted the panel's host, a woman named Nancy. I left a voicemail explaining I had information she needed to see. I was calm, polite, professional. I sent over a packet. I kept it simple. Timeline, quotes, proof of the fake resume, cease and desist, and police report numbers. I didn't ask her to remove him. I just said you should know who he really is. You can make your own decision. She called me the next morning. Julia, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. This is disturbing. I'm not asking you to cancel the event, I said. But if he's going to speak about leadership, I think your audience deserves the full picture. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Can I be honest with you? Please." I've had men like this on my panels before. They use their voice, their charm, their fake calm. They talk over people like they're sharing wisdom. But all they're doing is twisting stories to fit themselves. I've spent years trying to build something here, and I won't let a man like this poison it. She didn't cancel him. She kept him on the panel, but she added me as the keynote. No announcement, no update. Just slid my name in at the top, above his. And when the day came, I showed up early, professional, calm, ready. I sat behind the stage curtain and watched him arrive. He didn't see me at first. He shook hands, made small talk, still wearing that same too confident smirk. But when he finally turned and saw me standing across the room, something in him shifted. His jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. He knew. He didn't walk over. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring. The panel started. Ryan went first. He talked about resilience in the workplace, how he had learned from setbacks and grown as a professional through adversity. He even said this line, I'll never forget it. Sometimes people misunderstand strength, especially when you stay calm while others fall apart. The audience nodded. They didn't know, but they were about to. I walked up when it was my turn. I didn't look at him. I looked at the room, and I told my story. From day one, I didn't name him. I didn't need to. I talked about what it's like to be in a workplace where you're quietly undermined, not with yelling, but with whispers, where calm can be a weapon, where people say you're too emotional, when all you're doing is standing up for yourself. I talked about manipulation disguised as professionalism, gaslighting disguised as leadership, and I talked about how dangerous it is when someone targets your reputation, not your work. People listened. Some looked confused. Some looked uncomfortable. And some looked angry. Then I ended with this. Leadership isn't about who talks the calmest. It's about who shows up, who builds others up instead of tearing them down. And the most dangerous people in the workplace aren't the loud ones. They're the ones who smile while sharpening their knives. I stepped down. And for the first time, Ryan looked scared. After the event, Nancy pulled me aside. Just so you know, she whispered, we've cut ties with him. We won't be using him again. And I told the other local groups too. Quietly, they'll spread the word. He was done, but it didn't stop there. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. It was a woman's voice, tired, shaky, holding back tears. Hi, my name's Teresa. I'm Ryan's wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, I guess. I found your name in some of his old emails. I wanted to say thank you for what you said at the panel. I was there. She paused. I didn't know the truth until that day. He always said you were the one who lied, that you were out to ruin him. I believed him. for years. But I saw his face when you spoke. That was the first time I saw the real him. She ended with, I filed for divorce last week. I'm taking the kids. I don't know what's next, but thank you. I sat in my office holding that phone and cried, not because I felt triumphant, but because I realized how many lives he had infected. Not just mine, not just coworkers, his own family, his own kids. His wife had been living in the same web I had, just a different version. That was the final revenge, that he exposed himself in front of the one person who still trusted him. I never heard from him again. Last I checked, he moved out of state. No job listed, no public profile, just gone. But I still get messages sometimes from women in other companies in other cities. They say, your story helped me speak up. That's the real ending, not just revenge, freedom. Mine, theirs, his wife's, his kids. He spent years trying to break me by calling me emotional. In the end, all it took was staying calm and letting him fall apart.